If you've ever been underestimated, belittled, or written off by someone who should have supported you, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll hear today. This isn't just about building a fortune, it's about proving everyone wrong. In finding your own path to success, when the world has already decided you'll fail. What you're about to hear is the blueprint for turning your greatest humiliation into your most powerful motivation. The memory of that day still haunts me, not because of the words themselves, but because of the absolute certainty in Michael's voice as he delivered them, as if he were proclaiming a divine truth rather than his own cruel opinion. We had always been competitive. He and I locked in a silent battle for parental approval that had begun the moment I was born. 2 years my senior, Michael had always been the golden child strata student, captain of the debate team, accepted into an Ivy League university. With a full scholarship that our parents framed and hung in the living room like a religious icon, our mother would often stroke the frame while telling me, "This is what we expect from you too, Alex, maybe even better." The pressure was immense, a weight that settled on my shoulders every morning when I woke and every night when I tried to sleep. Michael thrived under this pressure, or at least appeared to. He wore his achievements like armor, each accolade another layer, protecting whatever vulnerability lay beneath. I, on the other hand, found the traditional path of lectures, exams, and structured learning felt suffocating, like trying to breathe underwater. While Michael excelled in the academic environment, I found myself increasingly drawn to self-directed learning, sneaking business books into my dorm room, teaching myself to code until 3 a.m., losing entire weekends exploring the emerging world of e-commerce and digital marketing with a fascination that bordered on obsession. My grades suffered as I poured my energy into these pursuits, but I was learning more than I ever had in a classroom. I discovered that I had an intuitive understanding of systems, of how different elements could be combined to create something greater than the sum of its parts. While Michael memorized facts and theories, I was building things, small websites, simple apps, basic automation tools that solved problems I identified in my daily life. I was creating value, even if no one was grading me on it. The breaking point came during Thanksgiving break of my sophomore year. Michael had just secured a prestigious internship at a major consulting firm, and our parents couldn't stop praising him. "Michael's going to be running that company one day," our father boasted over dinner, his chest puffed out with pride. Mark my words. When they turned their attention to me, asking about my grades and future plans, I hesitated before admitting that I was considering taking a semester off to explore a business idea I had been developing, a software solution that would help small retailers manage their inventory more efficiently. The room fell silent. Michael, who had been smirking throughout dinner, finally spoke. "He's not taking a semester off," he announced to our extended family gathered around the table. "He's dropping out." Just like I predicted. Our brother, the college dropout. I tried to explain that I wasn't giving up, just changing my approach to learning, but my words were drowned out by the collective gasps and disappointed sighs of our relatives. My father's face darkened with anger, his knuckles white as he gripped his fork. My mother's eyes filled with tears, though whether from disappointment or sadness, I couldn't tell. "Is this true?" my father demanded, his voice dangerously low. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat that felt like it was choking me. "Get out," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, but carrying more weight than any shout. "I won't have a failure living under my roof, bringing shame to this family." The words struck me like physical blows, each one landing with the force of a fist. I looked to my mother for support, for some sign that she didn't agree with this harsh judgment. But she simply shook her head, unable to meet my eyes. Michael watched with a triumphant smirk as I packed a single bag with the few belongings that truly mattered to me, my laptop, a handful of books, and the clothes on my back. As I walked out into the cold November night, with nowhere to go and only a few $100s to my name, I could hear the muffled sounds of dinner resuming behind me, as if my departure had been nothing more than a brief interruption in their celebration of Michael's success. The next few months were the darkest of my life, a period so bleak that even now, years later, I find it difficult to revisit those memories. I bounced between cheap motels that charged by the week and the couch of a sympathetic friend from high school. His parents had taken pity on me. I worked odd jobs washing dishes, stocking shelves, delivering newspapers, anything that would pay enough to save for a small apartment of my own. Every day was a struggle for survival, but what hurt most was the complete silence from my family. No calls, no texts, no emails, nothing but the deafening absence of people who had once been my entire world. I remember one particularly cold December night, huddled under a thin blanket in a motel room that smelled of stale cigarettes and disinfectant, scrolling through social media and seeing photos of my family celebrating Christmas without me. Michael was front and center, wearing an ugly Christmas sweater and smiling for the camera, his arm around our mother. The caption read, "So grateful for my amazing family, especially my superstar son Michael. #blessed, #family first." The irony was so thick I could taste it. They had cast me out for supposedly bringing shame to the family, yet here they were, publicly celebrating their commitment to family values while completely abandoning one of their own. In that moment, something inside me shifted. The pain was still there, sharp and immediate, but beneath it, a new emotion was taking root, a cold, hard resolve that felt like steel forming in my gut. I wouldn't just survive this. I would thrive. I would build a life so successful, so undeniably impressive, their opinion would become irrelevant. It was during this time that I discovered the power of order in the midst of chaos. With nothing but a library card and a secondhand laptop that barely worked, I began to systematically teach myself everything I could about business, technology, and personal development. I developed a routine that would become the foundation of my future success, waking at 5 a.m., studying for 3 hours before work, and dedicating every evening to building my skills and my business idea. The first principle I embraced was what I would later call the law of definite purpose. While others drifted aimlessly through life, reacting to circumstances rather than creating them, I became obsessed with clarity of vision. I spent days crafting the perfect statement of purpose, refining it until it resonated with every fiber of my being. Finally, I settled on, I will build a technology company that revolutionizes how small businesses operate, and I will prove to everyone who doubted me that they were wrong. I wrote this sentence on dozens of sticky notes and placed them everywhere on my laptop. On the bathroom mirror of my tiny apartment, on the dashboard of my beat-up car. I read it every morning when I woke and every night before I slept, letting it sink into my subconscious until it became the driving force behind every action I took. This clarity of purpose became my North Star, guiding me through the darkest moments and keeping me focused when distractions threatened to derail me. The second principle was the law of organized planning. I understood that a purpose without a plan was just a wish, a fantasy that would never materialize without concrete action. I broke my purpose down into smaller, manageable goals, each with specific timelines and measurable outcomes. My first goal was modest, to develop a functional prototype of my inventory management system within 6 months. I created a detailed project plan, breaking the development process into weekly milestones and daily tasks. Every Sunday evening, I would review my progress, adjusting my plan as needed based on what I had learned during the week. This practice of regular planning and review became a ritual that kept me accountable and ensured that I was always moving forward, even when progress seemed slow. The plan wasn't rigid, it was a living document that evolved as I gained new knowledge and insights. But it always maintained its core structure, providing a framework for my efforts. The third principle, the law of controlled attention, became my secret weapon in a world filled with distractions. While others scattered their energy across multiple pursuits, trying to do everything at once and accomplishing little, I focused obsessively on my single goal. I turned down social invitations, eliminated time-wasting activities, and treated my attention as the most valuable resource I possessed. I practiced techniques for improving my focus, from the Pomodoro technique, working in intense 25-minute intervals, followed by short breaks, to meditation exercises that trained my mind to resist distraction. I created a dedicated workspace in my small apartment, free from clutter and interruptions, where I could enter a state of flow and produce my best work. This intense focus allowed me to accomplish in months what might have taken others years, giving me a crucial advantage in the competitive world of technology startups. The fourth principle. The law of daily discipline transformed my life in ways I never could have imagined. I established non-negotiable routines that governed every aspect of my day, from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to sleep. My morning routine began at 5 a.m. with meditation and visualization, followed by an hour of reading business books or industry publications, and then 3 hours of focused work on my prototype before heading to my day job. Evenings were equally structured, 3 hours of coding or business development, followed by an hour of learning new skills through online courses, and ending with a review of my progress and planning for the next day. Weekends were dedicated to larger projects and deeper learning, but still followed a carefully planned schedule. This discipline wasn't about restriction, it was about creating the freedom to pursue my purpose without the friction of disorganization. By eliminating the need to make decisions about what to do next, I conserved my mental energy for the work that truly mattered. The fifth principle. The law of emotional command was perhaps the most challenging to master. The betrayal by my family had left deep wounds, and I struggled with anger, resentment, and self-doubt that threatened to undermine my progress. There were days when the pain was so intense that I could barely function, when the voice in my head sounded remarkably like my father's, telling me I was a failure who would never succeed, but I learned to observe my emotions without being controlled by them, using techniques like mindfulness and cognitive reframing to transform negative feelings into fuel for my ambition. When fear whispered that I would fail, I responded with faith in my abilities and a reminder of how far I had already come. When anger threatened to consume me, I channeled that energy into productive work, using the intensity of my emotions to fuel my creativity and determination. I practiced emotional regulation daily, treating it as a skill to be developed like any other, until I could maintain my composure even in the most challenging circumstances. The sixth principle. The law of circulation and service shifted my perspective from personal gain to value creation. I realized that true success comes not from what you accumulate, but from what you contribute to others. I focused obsessively on solving real problems for my customers, often working for minimal profit, just to prove the value of my solutions and build a reputation for reliability and innovation. I spent countless hours talking to small business owners, listening to their challenges and pain points, and refining my product to address their specific needs. This service-oriented approach attracted loyal clients who became my best advocates, creating a virtuous cycle of growth and opportunity. I also embraced the principle of circulation in my financial life, reinvesting profits back into the business rather than taking them as personal income, believing that what I circulated would return to me multiplied. The seventh principle. The law of continuous growth and reflection ensured that I never stagnated or became complacent. I established a daily practice of reviewing my progress, identifying lessons from both successes and failures, and setting clear intentions for improvement. I read voraciously, consuming books on business, technology, psychology, and philosophy, seeking insights that could help me grow as a leader and entrepreneur. I sought out mentors, successful entrepreneurs who had walked similar paths, and was humble enough to admit what I didn't know. I attended industry conferences and networking events, not just to promote my business, but to learn from others and stay abreast of emerging trends. This commitment to growth kept me adaptable in a rapidly changing industry and allowed me to pivot when necessary without losing sight of my ultimate purpose. 2 years after that fateful Thanksgiving dinner, my small business had grown into a thriving company with 20 employees and a growing list of clients. We had developed a suite of software tools that were transforming how small retailers managed their operations, and I was beginning to attract attention from larger players in the industry. Our revenue was growing steadily, and we had achieved profitability without taking on outside investment, which gave us the freedom to operate according to our values rather than the demands of venture capitalists. It was during a trade show in Las Vegas that I first came into contact with Nexus Tech, the company Michael had always dreamed of working for. They were the industry leader, with a reputation for innovation and aggressive growth that had made them the envy of competitors. I was manning our modest booth when their CEO, a charismatic man named Richard Harrison, stopped by to see our demonstration. He was impressed by what he saw, not just by our technology, but by our approach to customer service and our deep understanding of the market we served. We talked for nearly an hour, and by the end of our conversation, he was suggesting we explore ways to work together. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, the college dropout Michael had scorned, being courted by the company he had once described as the pinnacle of success in our industry. The negotiations that followed were intense, with NexusTech's lawyers and executives scrutinizing every aspect of our business. But I held firm to my principles of value creation and mutual benefit, refusing to compromise on the aspects of our company that made it special: our commitment to customer service, our culture of innovation, and our focus on solving real problems for small businesses. What began as a discussion about partnership evolved into something much bigger when NexusTech's board recognized the strategic value of our technology and customer base. After weeks of due diligence and negotiation, we reached an agreement not for a partnership but for an acquisition. The day the deal closed was surreal. I found myself sitting in the same boardroom where I had first met with Richard Harrison, now surrounded by lawyers and executives as we signed the papers that would make me the new owner of the company, I had just acquired through a combination of cash and stock. The numbers were staggering, far beyond anything I had imagined when I started this journey with nothing but a laptop and a dream. As I signed my name on the final document, I felt a sense of validation so profound it almost brought tears to my eyes. I had done it. I had proven everyone wrong, not through luck or connections, but through sheer determination, disciplined effort, and an unwavering commitment to my purpose. The revenge wasn't just financial, it was existential. A complete reversal of the narrative that had been written about me by others. But the real satisfaction came a week later when I reviewed the employee roster of my new acquisition. There, listed as a mid-level analyst, was my brother's name. Apparently, despite his Ivy League education and prestigious internship, Michael had struggled to find his place in the competitive world of corporate consulting and had eventually taken a position at Zenith State, stepped down from his ambitions, but still a respectable job in a respected company. I won't lie, part of me wanted to fire him immediately, to watch him experience the same humiliation he had inflicted on me. The thought of him walking into my office, head bowed, to collect his final paycheck was tantalizing. A fantasy I had entertained many times during those dark months when I was struggling to survive. But as I sat there reviewing his file, I realized that true revenge wasn't about petty retaliation. It was about achieving a level of success so undeniable that it rendered his opinion irrelevant. Instead, I decided on a different approach. I called an all-hands meeting to introduce myself as the new owner, knowing Michael would be in the audience. When I walked into the packed conference room, scanned the faces until I found him sitting near the back, his expression unreadable as he recognized me. The shock on his face was almost comical, a mixture of disbelief, horror, and dawning realization that must have mirrored my own expression 3 years earlier when our father told me to get out. The presentation went smoothly. I outlined my vision for the company, emphasizing innovation, customer focus, and the importance of recognizing talent regardless of background or credentials. I talked about my journey as an entrepreneur, the principles that had guided me, and my commitment to creating a culture where everyone had the opportunity to contribute and grow. Then came the moment I had been anticipating. As many of you know, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I don't have a college degree. I dropped out of school to pursue a vision that others didn't understand. Some people, including members of my own family, told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life, that I would never amount to anything. I paused, letting the words hang in the air as I made eye contact with Michael. His face had gone pale, and he was shifting uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding my gaze. But I believed in myself, I continued, my voice gaining strength. I embraced principles of order, discipline, and purpose. I focused on creating value rather than accumulating credentials. And now, I stand before you not just as the founder of a successful company, but as the owner of this organization, a position I achieved, not despite my lack of a degree, but because of my commitment to continuous learning and growth. The room was silent. All eyes on me as I delivered my final blow. "So let this be a lesson to everyone here," I said, my gaze still locked on Michael. "Success comes not from the path you take, but from the purpose that drives you, the discipline that sustains you, and the value you create along the way. Your background doesn't define your future, your actions do." The applause that followed was thunderous, but I barely heard it. I was watching Michael, who had shrunk in his seat, his face a mask of shock and humiliation. He had built his identity on academic achievement and conventional success. And here I was, the college dropout he had scorned, standing before his colleagues as his new boss. The reversal of fortune was so complete, so poetic, that it felt like something out of a novel. After the meeting, as people filed out of the room, Michael approached me hesitantly. His shoulders slumped in defeat. "Alex," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know." "Didn't know what, Michael?" I asked, my tone measured. "Didn't know that dropping out of college could lead to success? Or didn't know that publicly humiliating your brother might have consequences someday?" He flinched at my words, his eyes dropping to the floor. "I'm sorry," he said, the words sounding foreign coming from him. "I was arrogant and cruel. I see that now." I studied him for a moment, seeing not just the brother who had betrayed me, but the insecure young man who had needed to feel superior by putting others down. In that moment, I realized that my success wasn't just about proving him wrong. It was about transcending the need for his validation entirely. "I appreciate the apology," I said, my voice softer now. "But I'm not the same person you publicly shamed 3 years ago. I've built a life based on principles of order and purpose, and that life doesn't include holding grudges or seeking revenge." I could see the relief wash over his face, but I wasn't finished. "However," I continued, "trust is earned, not given. You'll keep your position here, but you'll report to Sarah, who will be overseeing your team. And you'll have the same opportunity as everyone else to prove your value through performance, not pedigree." He nodded, understanding that this was both a mercy and a challenge and opportunity to redeem himself through his own efforts rather than through family connections or academic credentials. As he walked away, I felt a sense of closure that went far beyond mere satisfaction. I had not only achieved financial success, but had done so on my own terms, guided by principles that had transformed every aspect of my life. The revenge wasn't in Michael's humiliation. It was in the undeniable proof that success follows purpose, not convention. The months that followed brought their own satisfactions, subtle but deeply rewarding. I watched as Michael struggled to adapt to a workplace where his Ivy League education meant less than his ability to deliver results. There were moments of tension, to be sure, when he tried to leverage our family connection in meetings, when he subtly undermined colleagues he perceived as threats, when he bristled at taking direction from Sarah, who had no college degree but had risen through the ranks based on merit alone. Each time, I addressed the behavior directly but professionally, reinforcing the culture of meritocracy I was building in this company. I announced in one team meeting after Michael had questioned Sarah's authority in front of their colleagues, "We respect expertise and results, not credentials or connections." Questioning a colleague's qualifications based on their educational background is not only unprofessional, it's contrary to everything we stand for. The message was clear. And while Michael's expression was a mixture of anger and embarrassment, he knew he had no choice but to adapt or leave. To my surprise, he chose to adapt slowly, imperfectly, but perceptibly. He began to focus on his work rather than his status, to collaborate rather than compete, to listen rather than lecture. The true climax came 6 months later, during our annual performance review season. As I reviewed the assessments from various department heads, I came across Michael's evaluation. Written by Sarah, it was honest but fair, acknowledging his areas of improvement while also recognizing his growth. He still struggles with humility, Sarah had written, but he's learning to value collaboration over competition. His analytical skills are strong, and when he focuses on solving problems rather than proving his intelligence, he contributes meaningfully to the team. I called Michael into my office, not as his brother, but as his CEO. He entered cautiously, unsure of what to expect, his posture defensive, as if bracing for impact. "I wanted to discuss your performance review," I began, watching him tense up. "Sarah notes significant improvement in your collaborative skills and your ability to focus on team objectives rather than personal recognition." He nodded, his expression guarded. "Something else," I continued, sliding a document across my desk. "We're launching a new initiative to develop affordable technology solutions for small businesses in underserved communities. It's a passion project of mine, inspired by my own journey of building a company with limited resources." I paused, letting him absorb the information. "I need someone to lead this initiative," I said. "Someone with strong analytical skills, business acumen, most importantly, a genuine commitment to creating value for others. Based on your recent performance and your understanding of both technology and business strategy, I believe you could be the right person for this role." Michael stared at me, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to something resembling hope. It was clear he had been expecting criticism or even dismissal, not an opportunity for growth and responsibility. "You're offering me a leadership position?" he asked, his voice uncertain. "I'm offering you an opportunity," I corrected gently. "The same opportunity I've given everyone in this company, to prove your value through your actions, not your background. This project won't be easy. It will require humility, creativity, and a genuine commitment to service. But if you embrace those principles, it could be the most meaningful work of your career." As I watched him process this unexpected turn of events, I felt a surge of something deeper than satisfaction, something closer to fulfillment. The revenge wasn't in keeping Michael down, it was in lifting him up to a level where he could grow beyond the limitations of his own ego. By offering him this chance at redemption, I was not only demonstrating my own magnanimity, but also embodying the principles that had guided my success: service, growth, and the belief that everyone has the potential to transform themselves if given the right opportunity and motivation. "Thank you," he said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "I won't let you down." "I'm not the one you need to worry about letting down," I replied. "The communities we're serving are counting on you. Focus on them, and everything else will fall into place." As he left my office, I felt a sense of peace settle over me, a quiet contentment that was far more satisfying than any moment of triumph or revenge. I had not only built a successful company, but it also created a culture that valued growth, service, and second chances. In offering Michael the opportunity to redeem himself, I was completing a circle that had begun with his public humiliation of me, transforming that moment of shame into an opportunity for both of us to become better versions of ourselves. Looking back on that journey from the humiliating Thanksgiving dinner to this moment of offering my brother a chance at redemption, I've come to understand that true success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. The 7 principles that guided my transformation weren't just business strategies. They were life philosophies that reshaped my relationship with myself, with others, and with the world around me. The law of definite purpose taught me that clarity of vision is the foundation of all achievement. Without a clear sense of direction, even the most talented and hardworking individuals can find themselves drifting aimlessly, expending energy without making meaningful progress. By defining my purpose with precision and passion, I created a North Star that guided me through the darkest moments and kept me focused when distractions threatened to derail me. The law of organized planning showed me that dreams without structure remain fantasies. A purpose without a plan is like a ship without a rudder destined to drift aimlessly rather than moving deliberately toward its destination. By breaking my purpose down into concrete, actionable steps and reviewing my progress regularly, I created a framework for consistent, measurable progress that turned my vision into reality. The law of controlled attention revealed that focus is the currency of achievement. In a world filled with endless distractions and demands on our attention, The ability to concentrate on what truly matters is a superpower. By training my mind to resist distraction and maintain focus on my priorities, I was able to accomplish more in less time, giving me a crucial advantage in the competitive world of entrepreneurship. The law of daily discipline demonstrated that consistency trumps intensity every time. Success is not built through heroic efforts, but through small, consistent actions repeated over time. By establishing non-negotiable routines and habits that align with my purpose, I created the structure and momentum needed to overcome obstacles and achieve my goals. Even on days when motivation was lacking, the law of emotional command helped me transform pain into purpose. The betrayal by my family had left deep wounds. But by learning to observe my emotions without being controlled by them, I was able to channel the intensity of my feelings into productive action rather than allowing them to undermine my progress. This emotional mastery gave me the resilience to persevere through challenges and the clarity to make wise decisions under pressure. The law of circulation. And service shifted my focus from personal gain to value creation. I realized that true success comes not from what you accumulate, but from what you contribute to others. By focusing obsessively on solving real problems for my customers and embracing the principle of circulation in all aspects of my life, I created a virtuous cycle of growth and opportunity that benefited not only myself but also everyone connected to my business. And the law of continuous growth and reflection ensured that I never stagnated or became complacent. By maintaining a commitment to lifelong learning and regularly reflecting on my progress, I was able to adapt to changing circumstances, overcome obstacles, and continue evolving as a leader and entrepreneur. This commitment to growth kept me humble and hungry, always striving to become better tomorrow than I was today. These principles didn't just build a business, they built a life of meaning and fulfillment. They transformed me from a drifting college dropout into a purposeful entrepreneur, from a victim of circumstance into an architect of destiny. Perhaps most importantly, it taught me that the sweetest revenge isn't about seeing others fail, it's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, including those who once doubted you. My brother stood in the middle of our parents' living room, his voice dripping with the kind of contempt that can only come from a place of deep-seated insecurity, a desperate need for validation. "He's a failure," Michael announced, his eyes scanning the room for approval like a predator circling its prey. A drifting, directionless disappointment will never amount to anything. The silence that followed was suffocating, each second stretching into an eternity as our relatives exchanged knowing glances that felt like physical blows. I could feel my face burning with a shame so profound it seemed to radiate from my very bones. My hands trembling at my sides, clenched into fists to stop them from shaking. That was 3 years ago. Today I'm standing in the boardroom of the very company Michael once dreamed of working for, holding the signed acquisition papers that make me its new owner. And I'm about to show him what a drifting disappointment can really accomplish. When they discover the 7 principles that turn chaos into empire. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying transformation you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this, where we explore how principles of order, purpose, and discipline can transform lives and create extraordinary success against all odds. Remember, your background doesn't define your future, your actions do. Now go out there and build your empire.